They say the forest never forgets. Every tree holds a secret. Every river whispers a name, and every flower blooms with the memory of the dead. But in the town of Obanla, people fear one garden above all others, the Bone Garden. It is said the flowers there glow only at night, opening their pale petals beneath the moon. To step inside is to feel the chill of spirits watching. To breathe their scent is to taste sorrow and sweetness at once. And at the center of it all, bending to touch the blossoms with a lover's tenderness, is the gravekeeper, a man named Duro. Duro was a quiet man, tall and lean, with a face carved by years of silence. His duty was to watch over the graves at the edge of Obanla. People often mocked him, saying he spoke more to the dead than to the living, but Duro did not mind. He found peace among the tombstones. What none of the villagers knew was that Duro's garden, the night-blooming flowers that shimmered like ghosts, were not his own creation. They were a gift. A gift from a woman no villager had ever seen, but whose beauty and terror lived in whispers, Mama Naga. Mama Naga was not like ordinary women. Her skin was the deep shade of midnight earth, glowing smooth under the moonlight. Her hair was long, black and sleek, flowing down her back like a river. Her eyes were slitted, emerald green, as if two flames of a serpent had taken root in her gaze. Around her neck, she carried always a giant red python, its scales glimmering with strange light, its tongue flickering in and out as though it shared her very breath. She dressed in silks and robes adorned with emeralds, her body curved like the hourglass, her presence both sacred and sinful. She lived in a mansion hidden deep within the enchanted forest. The walls were carved with snake motifs, coiling serpents of every size, their jeweled eyes seeming alive. Some said the mansion itself breathed like a serpent, inhaling, exhaling, waiting. When Mama Naga visited Duro, she came in the shape of a woman, but never could she hide the aura of something greater, something older, something not of man. She would appear at midnight when the moon was full, her emerald jewelry catching the silver light. She would walk among the graves with him, her voice a soft hiss, her laughter like silk tearing, and she would press into his hands seeds that glowed faintly green. "Plant them here, my love," she whispered. "They will bloom for you alone." And they did. Flowers unlike any other, pale blossoms with veins of emerald, their fragrance heavy and intoxicating. The villagers feared them, calling them witches' blooms.
"Those cursed flowers.
I feel the evil.
We must not touch them."
The curse awakens.
But to Duro, they were proof of her love. In Obanla, tongues wagged. Women said no man could love flowers so much unless he was bewitched. Old men spat on the ground and warned their children to stay away. "Those flowers drink blood," they muttered. "Nothing good comes from a garden that glows at night." But Duro only smiled when he heard their words. They did not understand. He had touched Mama Naga's hand, had felt the warmth of her body against his in the darkness of the graveyard, had tasted the sweetness of her lips. She was no witch to him. She was love itself. One night, after many moons of secret meetings, curiosity began to burn in Duro's heart. Where did Mama Naga go when she left him? What was this enchanted mansion she spoke of, but never showed him? When he asked, she smiled, her serpent eyes narrowing. "Some doors," she whispered, "should remain closed." But love is restless, and Duro's love was mixed with hunger. He wanted to know her fully, to follow her beyond the graves, into the forest, into the place where even shadows dared not wander. So one night, when she left the graveyard and slipped into the trees, Duro followed. The forest seemed alive. Roots twisted like snakes. Leaves whispered like tongues. The air was thick with the hiss of unseen creatures. He walked for hours, guided only by the pale shimmer of her emerald jewelry glinting between the trees. And then he saw it, the mansion. It rose from the earth like a temple of another world, covered in carvings of serpents that glowed faintly as if lit from within. The walls shimmered in colors of green, gold, and blood red. The gates were shaped like fangs, and when he stepped through, it was as though he entered the very belly of a beast. Inside, the air was heavy with incense and the musk of reptiles. Tapestries of snakes devouring men hung on the walls. The floors gleamed with patterns of coiling serpents, and from the ceiling hung lanterns shaped like open jaws. But it was the garden at the back that made Duro's heart freeze. There, under the pale moonlight, grew flowers far more beautiful than those in his graveyard. Their blossoms were larger, their glow stronger, their fragrance sweeter. But the soil they rose from was not earth. It was bone. Every stem curled out of empty rib cages. Roots clutched skulls like lovers' hands. Blossoms swayed from spines still half buried in the ground. And scattered among them were rings, necklaces, rusted charms, the remnants of men long forgotten. Duro staggered back, his breath caught in his chest. His eyes darted from skull to skull, from blossom to blossom. Each flower seemed to pulse with life, as though fed by the marrow of the dead. And there, at the center, stood Mama Naga. She was smiling, her emerald eyes glowing brighter than ever. Her red python coiled lazily around her neck. She reached out to him, as though he were a child who had finally learned a lesson. "Do you see, my love?" she whispered. "Flowers bloom best when watered by devotion. These men gave me theirs. Their bones feed my garden. Their love never dies." Duro trembled. His heart screamed to flee, but his body longed for her touch. Mama Naga drew close, her emeralds brushing against his chest, her scent wrapping around him like smoke. She kissed his cheek, then his lips, her voice low and sweet in his ear. "You followed me, my Duro. That means you are ready." Her python stirred, uncoiling, its heavy body sliding across his shoulders. Before he could speak, her arms circled him, strong and tender, and then the serpent joined, coils tightening, breath leaving his body. He gasped, his eyes wide, as she held him close, stroking his hair. "Shh," she murmured. "Love never dies. You will bloom for me too. And every season, your flowers will sing of our love." The last thing Duro saw was her smile, radiant, cruel, eternal. In the months that followed, the villagers whispered of a new glow in the graveyard. Flowers brighter than before, blossoms larger, fragrance heavier, filling the night air with sweetness and sorrow. They said the gravekeeper had vanished, swallowed by the forest. But those who dared to look closely at the blooms swore they saw the shape of a face in the petals, the hollow of a skull beneath the roots. And from that night on, the bone garden became a place of fear and wonder. Lovers went there to swear eternal devotion. Mothers warned their daughters never to wander near. Old men shook their heads and spat, muttering, "The forest never forgets." But deep in the enchanted mansion, Mama Naga tended her garden, humming softly, her emerald eyes watching the flowers sway in the moonlight. And every season, when the blooms opened, one voice among them whispered louder than the rest. The voice of Duro, her gravekeeper, forever bound to her love. For in Obanla, they say love never dies. It only grows roots and blooms again.